Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third session of the year of the Spotfire Quarterly Connect Plus Community Series. My name is Chris Stump, and I'm a Product Marketing Manager for Spotfire and Signals Research Suite, and I will be your moderator for this session. We have a fantastic webinar for you today, but before I introduce today's speaker, I want to share why I think you may find this webinar helpful. So what you'll learn today. So first of all, in this Spotfire Quarterly Connect, we're going to illustrate how Spotfire is used to empower clinical research. And as this slide highlights, Revvity Signals products are powered by Spotfire. This includes the new SaaS clinical data science platform that Simone will be speaking about today. And specifically, Simone's going to be describing to you how to get seamless access to analysis-ready data directly in Spotfire. She's going to tell you how to automate analytical data preparation and how this helps ensure self-service data management. And data preparation is an important concept, so that's what she, the focus of this presentation. And finally, she'll share the benefits of the SaaS clinical data science platform. So we also hope to have some time for Q&A at the end. And so our presenter today, as I indicated a moment ago, is Simone Sharma. She's Clinical Analytics Product Leader at Revvity Signals. And as the Clinical Analytics Product Leader, Simone focuses on building innovative clinical analytics solutions by converting business objectives into tangible products. We're very fortunate to have Simone share her deep clinical analytics experience with us today. And before turning over the session over to Simone to start us off, I have one quick housekeeping reminder before we start. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be shared out with all attendees in the next couple of days. So without further ado, I turn the floor over to you, Simone.
Thank you, Chris.
And we can see your screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. I am very excited to introduce to you a new clinical data science platform that we are about to launch in the next few weeks. And I really want to kind of focus on why we feel the need to kind of bring this product to market. So obviously, we are a Spotfire shop here at Revvity Signals. But what we really, what we really wanted to do was find a way to kind of centralize data and move some of the logic and a lot of the kind of operational kind of nuts and bolts upstream of Spotfire, so that Spotfire users could actually get access to analytics-ready data sets and really maximize the Spotfire analytics layer. So kind of move the more kind of grunt work, the boring kind of data preparation outside of the Spotfire layer and make it work much harder on what it's actually already very good at, which is visual analytics. So obviously we are all here because we are interested in making data-driven decisions. And data-driven decisions is the cornerstone of drug development. Without the proof, clarity, and nuance of good data, we can't make successful drugs. And currently, in our industry, we're really grappling with an avalanche of data, good and bad data, might I add. And it's only going to get bigger and more complex, right? And with the amount of data that's kind of coming through, there is pressure on all of us to actually make these data-driven decisions faster and kind of more efficient. So it's very much like this avalanche of data coming through, and there's a lot of pressure on, oh, more data is coming in, so you need to make faster and better data-driven decisions. But the challenge with that is that in order to do that, the right person needs to access the right data at the right time in the right format, and the whole kind of data pipeline needs to kind of be looked at right through, from collection of data to kind of preparation of data to the analysis and the eventual insights. So the whole data pipeline needs to really be taken into account now, and things can't be done independently in silos. It can't just be about kind of data collection and then someone else kind of prepares the data. You really need to look at the whole landscape. And since these challenges are kind of hard to address within the constraints of existing systems, we at Brevity Signals, so myself and our colleagues, we've been working very hard to create innovative products that are designed with the explicit purpose of simplifying your access to data and analytics, so you can accelerate and remove some of the bigger challenges that impede data-driven decision making. And we've been trying to address this right across the drug development pipeline, right from the formulations and small molecule and large molecule research to testing, safety, the operationalizing of the full kind of pipeline, and then clinical research and eventually pharmacovigilance as well. So we really want to kind of look at the whole gamut with our kind of Signals platform and Spotfire. So analytics, Spotfire analytics is arguably actually where most of the the interesting action is happening. This is obviously where Spotfire comes in and really helps us slice and dice data in a myriad number of ways. And Spotfire is phenomenal at it. It's Spotfire can do a lot. And we've been at the forefront of it with a lot of our customers, where we basically we use Spotfire to really help our kind of end users address a variety of use cases in clinical, whether it's medical review, line listing review, operations, efficacy analysis, pharmacovigilance, risk-based and centralized monitoring. So, and these are just some of the use cases that Spotfire can help solve in clinical analytics. But time and time again, we do hear that projects suffer mostly due to kind of operational inefficiencies, and these could be as wide-ranging from it's hard to find and utilize data. There's too much kind of heavy reliance on clinical IT. Resources are limited. We can't get access to the data we want because there's not the insufficient. The infrastructure is not up to scratch, and there's just not the systems there to kind of to support your clinical analytics projects. So from our point of view, it's these sort of questions. If you want to kind of address these sort of questions, you kind of really need to figure out what's happening in the behind the scenes. So the challenges that we keep on hearing about are, I can't find, I need access to data in a timely manner if I'm to make these decisions faster whilst I'm doing the in-stream safety review. I just need that. I need that data faster. It's not always easy to find the data that you need to either create or update your Spotfire analytics. And sometimes you literally just need to see a few pieces of the puzzle, but sometimes getting to those pieces is really, really hard. And on top of that, you also, once you kind of are in the decision-making process, you want to be able to collaborate with your colleagues, and you want to be able to do it in one place where things are trackable, so that eventually, if you ever go down the audit route, there is the whole kind of data lineage being captured. So, but for all of this to happen, it's easy to think that this is a front-end problem, right? That like Spotfire should be able to solve it. And like I said, Spotfire is very good at the visual analytics part, but it is not a data management tool, right? You need to there's things that's very incredibly good at, but there's certain things that are better if they kind of get moved upstream of Spotfire. So the focus is on Spotfire being fed the right data. It's kind of being churning through, the right data is coming to it, and not only will it kind of maximize your analytics layer, but it'll also massively improve the performance too. So once we kind of start to look what's underneath the hood in terms of kind of the architecture at the back of Spotfire, feeding Spotfire, it'll really enable us to kind of address questions like this. But like I said, a lot needs to happen behind the scenes. And these are like some of the key clinical data problems that we have identified, whether it's the timely access to data. You probably have lots of perhaps not always the right IT system in place, or even if you have the right IT systems, might not necessarily have the resources might be limited, right? IT people have a lot of other things to do as well. contractual kind of data access as well. So your EDC might only give you kind of bits of data at a time. So but it's your data at the end of the day. You should be able to have it all whenever you want. Things like multiple sources, multiple data sources, right? So your study, when it's being conducted, it's not necessarily happening at one place, it's happening at multiple sites. How do you kind of bring in and kind of coalesce all that data? Dealing with kind of data quality and complexity, you want to be able to, there'll be multiple solutions for it, obviously Spotfire being one, but there are a lot of kind of other analytics layers too, which aren't always as flexible. And like I said before, the ability to kind of collaborate with your colleagues, it's really, 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 really important. And kind of to address these sort of kind of challenges, you really need a back-end layer that is scalable and performant at all times, like a workplace, so to speak, where all the data is collected, curated, and prepared so that when it comes out, it is analytics ready. And to address that kind of these four challenges, what we realized is you kind of need these four capabilities to address the top four challenges. Data management, you need a layer that is purpose-built for managing the data. And by managing data, I don't just mean, connect to sources, bring in files, and kind of just store them. It's a data management layer has got to be more than that. It's got to be somewhere where you can actually put some logic on your data. You can kind of add some structure to your data. You can prepare your data. It can't just be, bring it in and dump it there. Because if you don't structure your data properly, you are not able to search it effectively. And if you can't search it effectively, you are not able to access it properly. And if you can't access it properly, your analytics are always going to be on the back foot. And if your analytics are on the back foot, it might not necessarily give you the right tools that you need or the right questions you need to ask to be able to collaborate effectively with your colleagues. So in order to kind of, address these challenges, these are the four kind of capabilities we have brought into the fold using some of the state-of-the-art kind of SaaS technologies. And by SaaS, I mean software as a service, not SaaS datasets. So using software as a service technologies, we brought in the ability to address all of these kind of four key components in Signals Clinical. Now we've already, you've been using Signals technologies in our research use cases, whether it's Inventor, Vivo, so on and so forth. And now it's, we brought it into clinical, so whereby you have the ability to make kind of reproducible decisions in a centralized analytics platform. And within those four capabilities, you've got these kind of three overarching themes, so to speak, that need to be addressed. The first theme being ability to kind of harmonize and search data. If you don't harmonize data, you can't effectively search data. That's just a given. I know there's a lot of kind of tools out there where like, oh, just query it, and or you can pull data from this layer. But the thing is, to do that, you have to be a programmer. And not everyone is a programmer. I'm not a programmer, right? Hands up, I'm not a programmer. So how do you empower people who don't want to write code or can't write code or don't have the time to learn to write code? But the same people who are the end users of that data, how do you empower them to be able to search data that they need in a self-service manner? And then, kind of configurable analytics and workflows as well. So you want to retain the flexibility of Spotfire and create and, kind of feed data into your maybe current templates, Spotfire templates, or new templates. For example, if you have a new study, you want to search it from scratch, you get the data you need. And then again, like I keep on saying, collaboration. You want it all to be happening in one ecosystem. And this is where Signals Clinical comes in and is our new end-to-end data science platform. But the one thing we're doing with Signals Clinical is we are keeping it fair. And what do I mean by fair? So fair is basically a set of guidelines that have been used for a while in actually research. And what fair means is your data needs to be, your data, for it to really give you the most benefit, it needs to be findable, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be interoperable, and it needs to be reusable. And each of these kind of components, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, not components, but like factors, so to speak, come with their own kind of set of guidelines as to these need to be addressed for it to be findable. This needs to be addressed for it to be accessible. For example, findable, you want to be able to have persistent and unique IDs. You need to be able to do it on a scalable technology. To make data accessible, yes, you want it to be accessible, but you might not want it to be accessible to everyone. So you want to be able to have some sort of kind of role-specific permissions. And it could be as granular as this person has access to this study, but they don't have access to this study. To even perhaps, maybe it'll come a time it'll become more granular. We're already seeing it in translational research use cases where not everyone has access to genomics data. They might have access to clinical data, but not to genomic data. So, and that's only a matter of time, that it kind of filters through into clinical development as well. And interoperable, you want a flexible data model that is fully configurable, whereby, whether you need to kind of do, map data to maybe SDTM, or perhaps your kind of homegrown data model, you need a system that can support that. And then you need it to be reusable, right? You don't want that, like, your colleague A has kind of created a model, and now they've kind of, left the company, they've gone somewhere else, and that knowledge has gone with them. That shouldn't happen. You can't have that kind of knowledge drain. So you need to retain that knowledge in a reusable manner, and also actually auditable as well, right? You need the full data pipeline to be reusable, whether it's harmonization, whether it's the way it's been mapped, and then the way it's been integrated into your analytics workflow. So it's really essential that a data management platform which is serving up analytics ready datasets addresses these kind of four guiding principles. And and like, I kind of want to bring in collaboration in here as well, because you want one platform to address many use cases, but again, you want to address these use cases in the fair manner, right? So you're for example, your medical reviewer, they're the people who want to access the latest data so they can search and monitor specific adverse events. They want to be able to review safety workflows. And if they have any issues with the data, they want to query directly with the data manager, right? They want to raise it with the data manager, who will go back to the EDC or the source data, figure out what's wrong, create, either create or be, one of the people's giving the information to kind of fix the data mapping. They will review data quality and then track it. So these are these are kind of, you need that to happen in one system, or I mean, it's better that it happens in one system, because then everyone is kind of speaking the same language. So now I'm going to switch over to a demo. Give me 2 minutes. So my demo is going to be in three different parts. I'm going to show you the last thing first. I'm going to show you how you access data in Spotfire. And after that, I will show you how you kind of prepare that data to funnel it into Spotfire. So this is your Spotfire environment, right? Come into Spotfire, go into tools, and I will open Signals Clinical over here. Open Signals Clinical. This will come up. And now this is Signals Clinical in Spotfire. And it's basically telling me that I have access to 3 different projects in this case. Let's say, I'm interested in this particular data. I will hit import. And over here, basically, what it's saying to me is, okay, you have data which has 229 subjects, but they only have data for concomitant medication. And perhaps, that's enough. That's what I need, and that's what I've been allowed to get. So I will import that data in. So you can see over here, these are all the different kind of attributes or variables that are coming in for concomitant medication. I will import it in quite easily. And, the data is being read. And once the data comes in, it's telling me it's fine. So if I show you this over here, it's basically shown me all of the different columns that have come in to Signals, from Signals Clinical into Spotfire. And now, again, I'm kind of, I can start to create my visualizations. I can kind of add color by. Basically, all of kind of, your Spotfire's kind of, all of your Spotfire's Spotfire's functionality is basically here, whether you want to kind of, build it this way, and you can kind of keep on bringing more data in and just funneling it. But what's actually quite amazing about it is you can set up a template, and as long as you can set up a template for a particular study, and if there are other studies that are following the same kind of model, data model, you can just automatically propagate them. And to do that, I'm going to show you a different use case. So basically, this is, the full kind of clinical data review, whereby you've got like many tabs over here. You can see you've got tons of tabs over here, giving you an idea of whether it's patient profile, labs, so on and so forth. So you've got your demographics here. You can see it's demographics data for both female, male. You've got your adverse events, showing you severity, intensity, so on and so forth. So now let's say I want to bring in either just a subset of data or new data into this template. So I will open kind of Signals Clinical again, and it will give me the data I have access to. So let's say now I want to bring in this particular study into my template that exists. I import it. But actually, I don't want to bring all of this data. I just want to bring a subset of this data, right? So let's say I want to filter my data based on only females. I'm only interested in looking at females. So I'll start to kind of search for that data in this manner. So let's say I go into demographics, I go into search, and over here I'll say, okay, actually, yep, only females. So now what Signals Clinical is doing, it's basically searching the backend layer, and it's basically telling you, okay, for this study, out of 306 rows, 179 subjects are only female. So far so good. I can further use, other kind of attributes to other kind of demographic attributes to further kind of, hone in on this if I want to. Or I might use a different, measurement type. So let's say adverse events, right? So now I want to basically drill down the data. Let's say I'm only interested in data that is based on, oh, actually, maybe not that. I'm going to do it based on severity or intensity. So let's say I'm interested in data that's mild and moderate. I'm not necessarily interested in severe. So in doing kind of what Signals Clinical is now doing is, out of those 179 subjects, it's basically telling me for those 179 subjects, you've basically got 567, you've got 120 subjects that have either a moderate severity or a mild, right? So what it's doing is it's now only fetching data for those specific subjects, right? So everything with this concomitant medication, demographics, everything has been filtered down to those 120 subjects. And now I can, I can further start to, I can go further. I can go as granular as I want. I can start to do things by labs. I can start to do things by medical history or ECG test results. And you'll see it'll kind of further start to refine and kind of drill down further and further. And when you have a large amount of data sets, this is actually fairly powerful. But let's say for argument's sake, I'm going to bring it in now. I'm not going to bring everything because it'll take a little bit of time. So I'm going to bring subject, adverse events, demographics, and I might bring, let's say disposition, for example. So I'm going to import this now. And I'm importing it directly into a Spotfire template that has already been set for a different study, right? And because it's been mapped upstream, both the studies have been mapped in the similar manner, it should just seamlessly bring the data in. So it's saying Xano demo study 2 has been imported successfully. Okay, so far so good. So let me go to the demographics table. So what you'll see over here is, so you see that how in real time that data, which was so this template, which initially had both females and males, now only has female data. And if I look at adverse events, so you can see it's actually only got mild and moderate events now. It hasn't got severe events, and things like, for example, labs out of range and stuff like that. Things will only get propagated for the data I have brought in. But the other thing now I might be interested in doing is actually now looking at listings, right? So I've kind of been talking about how you access the data, bring it into Spotfire, and then you can propagate that data with propagate that Spotfire template with new data. But now you might want to actually drill down into the listings of the data. So you might want to kind of review the data and see whether it needs to be queried further, or whether you need to kind of raise any other questions of it. So now, again, like I said, you want to kind of do it in the same platform. So over here, I'm actually going to switch to the web player. So in the web player over here, you've got the same data. You're looking at the AE listings in this instance over here, and you are collaborating with other people. So I have a role, and now I want to go in and I want to basically review this data. So I'll go in and I will, for whatever reason, I'll go through and be like, oh, this doesn't look, right. This needs to be checked again. So what I can do is either mark it as progress or mark it as queried. I can mark it as queried, and what I can also do is, so you'll see I will turn it to queried, but what you can see turned into queried, but I can also actually, like I said, I can start to collaborate with my colleagues. Over here, I will say, actually, I can tag in my colleague and write, okay, loading over here. Let's see, please take a look at this listing. Doesn't seem right. Or whatever comment, right? And I'll submit it. And now my colleague will basically be, will be alerted when they log on that they have a notification that they need to look at this particular listing. And not just that, I can actually look at the history of this particular row as well, as to what is happening. So you can see over here, you will system and then clinical safety person queried it, and I have a data manager role and I have queried it. Maria Elena, who's my colleague, has a medical review role, and she will come in and further look at it. So this is how you kind of collaborate on the analytics knowledge that you've got. So this is kind of more, the Spotfire end that I've been showing you. And now I'm going to kind of switch gears and take you into Signals clinicals. If you're a medical reviewer, majority of your day is going to basically be spent looking at Spotfire visuals and doing data review. So if you are a study manager, or someone, or biometrics, for example, who needs to kind of prepare the data, now I'm going to kind of switch gears and kind of focus more on that. Okay, so I go in. So this is basically my Signals Clinical over here, and I log in. Okay, I'm a study admin, and it's my job to basically to kind of create and manage studies. And you can see over here, so these are the different kind of studies that are in the system over here. There are many, many studies, and some have a status of live, some have a status of draft. And what that means is that live is, as the name, as it implies, kind of ready for, is ready for consumption, Draft means that the study is still being prepared, it's not ready for prime time. So an end user can only access live studies. Draft is only meant for kind of more of the people behind the scenes who are kind of still working on it. And just to kind of give you a little bit of show, you've got the ability to kind of manage kind of your data connections. Like over here, you basically got the ability to create data connections for page not updating. Oh, page not updating. You've got the ability to connect to Metadata Rave. You've got the ability to connect to. FTP, and the ability to actually bring in data from local files. So let me show you a new project, how to create a new project. If I want to create a new project, I'm going to basically say Simone test September 13 Spotfire webinar. So this is my study name, right? It's a bit kludgy, but it is what it is. So over here, I've got my study, and it's basically showing me different cards as to what is going on. So there's nothing in the system. You've got to give it instructions, right? So now I need to basically add files. So this is, when you're just setting it up, right? And over here, you can see, I've got the ability to connect via Rave. So I've got kind of multiple Rave connections if I want. I've got the ability to connect via FTP, or I've got the ability to load data from a computer. So let's do it from, let's do it from a Rave, right? Let's choose a study that we have access to. Let's say we have this study that we have access to, and I'll just add kind of, DS, for example. I'll add file over here from DS, a disposition file. This is just to kind of show you guys different connectivity. And the next I want to do is maybe I want to upload something from a computer. So you can see over here, it has the ability to take in CSVs, text files, Excel files, and SaaS data sets as well. So over here, all I need to do is basically kind of do a drag and drop. So I will do AE, for example, over here. And I might even add, let's say, demographics over here, and I will add demographics as well. Okay, it's finished. I close it, and I might, just for argument's sake, add something from an FTP as well. So, concomitant medication. So now the files are kind of in the first stage, right? So they've kind of come in. They're in the kind of their most kind of they're in their raw format as to how the source has prepared them. And now I need to map them now. And mapping is where I'm basically I'm starting to when I keep on saying centralizing the logic. So mapping is almost like the first step to beginning to build the logic upon your data. So over here I'll come in, and let's say I'm going to start with an AE. I'm going to say, okay, create a data set for AE. Oops. And what it's doing is it's basically now telling me, okay, I'm bringing this in, and now you can you need to do something with it now. So it's basically telling me what's the click to map. So until I'm mapped, you can see that everything is off, nothing can be done. So I click to map over here. It gives me a preview of this is what your data looks like. So far, so good. I confirm. And the next step is where I actually start to do the mapping. So in this instance over here, these are basically all the columns in my source file, in my source AE file. These are all the columns, and these are basically the entities that I need to map to. And so entities, think of entities as the metadata, which will have your kind of more static data, so things like your subject information, for example, their date of birth, their race, or their country. So things that don't change. I like to think of them as metadata, and things where like the meat of the data is, where you're collecting data, whether it's adverse events or lab data. So data that's constantly changing should be part of measurement type, or as we know in clinical, your domains. So I select adverse events over here. So now I can, manually start to map things. Or I can load a map. So for example, let's say I have in the past, I've just formatted a study. I know my data maps are good, and there's no reason for me to manually do this again. So all I do is I kind of go in and I load map. Over here, basically, I've got all these kind of different maps that I can use. I am going to use this map, and I apply this map, and you can see it's automatically kind of did that mapping for me. So now I can save it, or I might decide, actually, you know what, I actually need to go a bit further. That wasn't enough. Maybe I need to do something else. So over here, let's say I want to add. So I can basically look at other things that I probably need. Kind of information from. So let's say, serious event, for example. Let's say, so I can just search for that serious event over there, and I'll be like, okay, serious event, actually map this as well. And you can see, when I map it, there's this connection. It's telling me it's been linked. I might now map outcome, right? Okay, so do outcome of adverse event, right? So now, and I can actually now view only the mapped ones if I'm interested in. So it's basically telling me, okay, all of these variables are mapped. And by mapped, I mean that the link has been made. So your your preferred term. So basically your data has now been mapped. So Signals Clinical will bring these datas in, or prepare these datas for eventual consumption. So the things that you haven't mapped, so all of these unmapped columns are technically now not part of the study. It's not that the data has been thrown, it's still part of the source data, but it hasn't been indexed, so it is not searchable. And if it is not searchable, it is not accessible. So if you need all of the columns to be available, you map everything. If you only need subset of columns to be available, you only map the subset. It's entirely up to you. And then I'll just do the map over here. And once you're happy with what's been done, you kind of hit next. And in this instance over here, it's telling me, okay, this was the map that was created. Do you want to name it as a new map, or do you just want to update the version of this map so that any further studies that this map will be applied to, those two new columns that are mapped will, they will automatically be mapped to as well. So I'm happy with changing my map, and I will just call it save. So what will happen is this map will become version 2. Once I've kind of saved it, I will go ahead and I will start to, bring in my other kind of datas as well. And I'll start to kind of, I'll bring in my other datas as well, and I'll kind of map them too. And what happens is, once you've kind of mapped all your data that you're happy with, so you can see over here, your data set has been mapped. You can bring other studies in. You can bring other data as well. But if you bring them in, you should map them. And once you're happy with all the data you need, you just hit load. And what load will do is, so over here you can basically, you're basically seeing that this is the health check over here. That all the connections are working. Your FTP is working, your Rave is working, your data files were loaded okay, your data set has been created. And once that's done, you kind of hit load. And what load will do is it will start to publish your data. And in publishing the data is what basically makes it searchable. And you can see, it's kind of processing in the background. And once this is done, and once this has gone live, I'm able to search for, AE events in this particular project. So if I just show you kind of projects again, once that's loading. So you can see, you've got things that are live, things that are in draft, and you can see my one is still loading, and that's fine. But once you basically got this, once you've got your project as live, you can actually further do like a cross-study search as well. And this is quite like, powerful thing within Signals Clinical. You can search across your whole portfolio, and for cross-study analysis or for whatever purposes, right? So right now, what it's telling me is I've got 10 studies that are live. Obviously, you saw a lot more studies, but half of them are in draft because they're being prepared, or for whatever reason, right? So I've got access to 10 studies, and across those 10 studies, these are the different kind of measurement types they have been mapped for. So now, I can go in, start to basically search across different studies. Say, I want to search for, I don't know, August Guarini test, right? Then let's say I want to search for WRX as well. And let's say I want to search for Zexion Q173. So these are basically telling me, okay, across these 3 studies, you've got that many number of subjects. WRX has that many visits, but no samples have been linked to it. And again, using the same sort of functionality I showed you earlier, you can further start to drill down on this data. You can say, okay, these are the 3 studies I'm interested in. I only want to see females in these studies. Okay. I only want to see females in this study. So it's basically saying, okay, based on the attribute sex equals F, we can only identify one study who has that particular sex type. And then you can be like, okay, that's fine. I'm interested in these 3. I'm interested in data in these studies with this demographic and this specific adverse event. I don't know. Let's say, let's look at click a few adverse events randomly and see what kind of data is being pulled out. So what it's basically doing is it's now started to search across all those 3 studies for females for these particular adverse events. And it's basically saying, okay, we only found one study that has 77 subjects that are female that have one or more of these adverse events. So total 212 adverse events, but some subjects might have more than one. But for these subjects, we have that much, we've also found that many kind of points for concomitant medication, as well as other kind of, auxiliary demographics information. And again, you can kind of further kind of hone this as much or as little as you want. And at any time you can remove a filter. So let's say, actually, I'm not just interested in females. I'm interested in I'm not interested in females. I'm just interested in all these 3 studies. And I'm just interested in these adverse events. So you can see all of a sudden, it's basically identified 2 studies and 290 subjects across those 2 studies who have one or more of these potential adverse events. And once I'm happy with it, I kind of can export it out. Now I can export it out very much like, how we've got the import functionality in Spotfire. I export it out, we'll export it out as flat files, and then you're able to do your kind of further analytics. I'm now going to switch gears. Actually, before I do that, I know we don't have much time, but I quickly wanted to kind of focus on what is kind of underpinning, what is kind of needed to kind of map the data in this way, so we can search in this way, and inevitably access it in that way. And that's basically the information design model that we have. And the information design model is really flexible yet completely configurable. And it doesn't require any coding. It's all kind of UI interface. And the only thing that that we have coded in the background is study, subject, visit, and sample. So study inevitably contains subjects. Subjects are associated with visits, and visits may or may not be related to samples. So this is where you kind of store your kind of meat of your metadata, so to speak. And like I said before, the actual kind of data you'll take action on, the actionable data, is obviously the clinical domains, or what we are terming measurement types over here. So each measurement type, if you wanted, you could have a completely clean system. What we have done is we have kind of propagated Signals Clinical with SDTM. The most recent SDTM clinical domains and the associated variables. So you can see over here, we've got most of the clinical domains uploaded as a measurement type, and each one has its own different attributes. And that's not to say you can't kind of create your own. You can create your own at any time you want. Let's say, for example, I want to create AE, adverse event oncology, right? And I need to link it to something, right? So you need to kind of link your measurement type to a metadata, which is, let's say, subject in this case over here. And over here, you'll start to then add attributes. Of course, this adverse event, even though it's oncology, you want majority of the adverse event measurement type in here. So let me just say what the adverse event measurement type is. And I'll show you how easy it is to actually so in adverse events over here, let's say, these are some of the new ones I'm interested in. So I might add, that's fine. I might add different, so basically these are a list of all of the different variables or attributes, as we call them, stored in the system. I'm interested in severity intensity. Apply. I might be interested in, let's say, body system or organ class, right? I might be interested in category, for example. Category. I might be interested in something specific, for example, to cancer. Let's say, tumor size. Create new attribute. Now I've kind of created new attribute. So now what will happen is tumor size as an attribute is only available in the adverse event oncology. It is not available in the other adverse events. So it won't be, as you can see over here, it is not available in the standard adverse event. So this is how you can kind of keep on creating as many measurement types as you want. You can have, just one large one called adverse events and put all your attributes in there, or you can have multiple based on the different therapeutic areas. There's still kind of, a lot of stuff happening in the background, but I obviously don't have much time to go into all the details. So I'm going to switch gears and go back to my presentation. Hopefully you can all see it. Okay, so
yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Chris. So in the demo over here, I kind of show you how to kind of do the in order to get kind of harmonized and searchable data, and do it in kind of a self-service manner, how you can easily do it in Signals Clinical. You can get data being fed to you by FTP, metadata rave, flat files, you connect it, you import it, you unify it, and you access it. And then you access it for, to pre-built workflows like I showed you, funnel it into a workflow you've already done, or create your kind of own kind of analytics layer. And actually, one thing I didn't mention when I was setting up the Signals Clinical project is that once you've actually, set up your data, you've done with all your data sets and stuff, you can actually set up a schedule. So for example, you want to do, let's say, nightly refreshes on the data because your source data is changing. And once you've set that schedule, so anytime your source data is changed, whether it's in Rave, whether it's in FTP, the whole pipeline, like bringing data in, mapping it, and then publishing it, will be done behind the scenes. It's just a matter of setting it once, and then you just completely automate it, and it just does it for you in the background. You kind of access data to either get your pre-built workflows or your customizable analytics. And again, it's again to kind of, we want to be as flexible as possible because we know there's more than one type of user. There's different flavors of users, right? Some want to use existing workflows. They're happy with it. They're like, I've got a theme going, let me do this. I'm cool with it. But then you might also have people who actually want to build their own custom analytics, but they want to be able to get the data really, really quickly, right? And not just get the data, like, do cross study on the data, or filter down data to something really specific that they're interested in. But both of the layers will help you kind of get to the ability to do line listing, so you can record and communicate decisions in kind of one collaborative platform. So it's basically you could have multitude of different roles. Standard, what happens is data comes in, data manager checks the quality, your biometrics will prepare the data, whether you're a medical reviewer or ops manager or safety analyst, you will analyze the data, and you will also then review or record decisions on the data. And if you have any issues, you will communicate that back to data management, and it's their responsibility then to further kind of respond to issues. Either they go back to your kind of source EDC and address it that way, or perhaps they might be in a position to address it, without going into the source. But the main thing is that Signals Clinical is that kind of backend layer to Spotfire, which will basically which kind of acts as a single point of access for all your kind of clinical data, and funnels through data so that you can utilize kind of the visual analytics power of Spotfire, but does it in a kind of collaborative environment to track your medical review, or and do it kind of in a cross-functional manner. So we are getting ready to launch in the next few weeks. So if you're interested, we're quite interested in looking at early adopters. If this has resonated with you, or if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And I'm open for questions now as well.
Thank you, Simone. This is an excellent presentation. So looks like we do have some time for some questions, and let me ask you the first one here. So is Signals Clinical part of Spotfire, and how can I access it?
So Signals Clinical is, you could say, is a backend layer to Spotfire. So it's a different license. So it's an independent license. So if you are interested in accessing it, it's a different license you will have to buy.
Okay, perfect. And then another question that came in, it says, Spotfire can help a lot with transformation. So why would I need to move upstream of Spotfire?
The reason is, like, Spotfire can help a lot with transformations, right? But like you said, what we want to do is long-term, we want to actually start moving the logic, whether it's kind of numerical logic or semantic logic, upstream into a layer, so that you're able to utilize that that logic in more than one template, right? You're able to kind of, if your logic changes in the upstream layer, it's able to filter out to your data sets a lot more readily than if you just do it in Spotfire, because then you end up doing it in, maybe one or two templates. And also, performance is a thing. We've had customers in the past who've done amazing stuff in Spotfire, but so many transformations that it has caused issues on the performance at the end of the day, right? And once you kind of move this outside into kind of cloud, upstream of Spotfire, the kind of the performance and the scalability just it starts running on steroids. And
Okay.
also with audit, right? With audit
Yep.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Looks like maybe this is the last question. So is there any limit to the amount of data that can be stored in Signals Clinical?
No, there isn't. So Signals Clinical, a little bit of history of it is it was designed very much for translational research. So kind of genomics data to begin with, and genomics data is large data,
Mm-hmm.
and much larger than clinical. And I have in the past kind of worked with customers who've had like 900 studies, hosted in this sort of layer, and it's worked fabulously. It's not been an issue. So no, there's no limit on the number of studies, just the number of licenses you buy, I suppose. That's the only limit.
Oh, fantastic. So then it looks like we got another one that just came in. So uh, do I need to purchase Spotfire license in addition to Signals Clinical, since Spotfire is an enterprise installation? It seems Signals is a SaaS
Yes,
deployment.
yes, these will be two independent licenses.
Two
That is correct.
independent. Okay.
Yes.
And then another one just came in. So fantastic presentation. Is it possible to connect Signals Clinical to public databases such as CBioPortal and et cetera?
We are, we're always looking into it, and we're working on APIs to start kind of connecting to public databases as well. And this is kind of another reason for us, to launch and ask for early adopters who can come in, kind of give us feedback, and start to kind of influence our roadmap. If we get a lot of customers who want the ability to connect to public databases, we will 100% do it.
Okay, that's a good point. Good point. Okay, so it looks like that wraps up our questions. So I want to thank you again, Simone, for presenting today. It's an excellent presentation, generated a lot of good questions. So what I would like to do now is just give you a few announcements. So thank you again for joining us today for our third Spotfire Quarterly Connect Plus Community Series of 2023. So as we close the webinar today, I'd like to share a few announcements. So first of all, on Wednesday, December 6th will be our fourth session. So that will be December 6th. And the other thing is, if you've seen things here today and you'd like to get more information, especially with respects to training, I have shared Stacy Fellow's email on the screen, and she can help connect you with some training. We also welcome suggestions for future presentations. If you have an idea for a data set, please share the idea with us. I've put my email address there at the bottom that you can reach out to me. So this could be a public data set or something that you're working on. We just ask that it's nothing proprietary, because we couldn't share that with the community. So we'll select one of the future or the data sets for a future Spotfire Quarterly Connect. And I'd also want to give a shout out to the TIBCO Analytics Forum, and that is actually happening next week. It's a free virtual event. And if you want to register, you can go to the analyticsforum.com, or you can just Google the TIBCO Analytics Forum. Either way will get you there, and there's a link on there that will allow you to register. And then finally, I want to give you a heads up about Nexus. So that's our Revity Signals users meeting. And so we're holding two of those. So one of them is a virtual one, kind of like the virtual session that we're having today with Spotfire. And so that for North America, we're having a virtual session, and then one in Europe, which is in person. So you have kind of your choice there if you want to in person or virtual. And so if you want to register for that, just go to revitysignals.com, and at the top, there's a banner at the top that says register, and it'll bring you to a screen that looks very similar to this, and then you can choose which one you want to register. And so the other, a question or two usually it pops up during the session is, will we be sharing out the recording? And absolutely, we're going to share the recording out. We'll do that in the next day or two. It just takes us a moment, or it just takes us a little bit to kind of get all that kind of ported over and ready for distribution. And so finally, this concludes our session for today. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.